Hello and welcome to my show Indus Cuisine, and I'm your chef Basim Akhund. We're back with another new episode and a new recipe from the heart of Pakistan. This recipe is from the coastal areas of the province Sindh. It's a very quick and easy recipe, and you can compare this recipe to the western recipe of pilaf, which is usually very famous in the country of Spain. This recipe is most likely compared to all the different forms of pilaf or different forms of pulao which are made in Pakistan, but this recipe is focused on seafood, and the seafood we're using today is prawns. The prawns are actually in the fridge, which I'll take out when I have to start using them. Why? Because I do not want the temperature of the hot environment around us, because as you know, Pakistan right now has summers, so when you put it in the heat, it goes bad. So always refrigerate your seafood once you've gotten it from the vendor, and then when you're using it, just at that time add it to the pan or the wok and then start cooking it. This recipe dates back around 1947, and when Pakistan got its independence in that year, a lot of people from India, current day India, came to Karachi, came to the coastal areas, and these communities were known as Memon or Kachi Memons. These people introduced a lot of recipes from the areas of Bombay, Mumbai, which is currently in India, because they were the Muslims living in those places. So when they came here, they started amalgamating their culture with the local Sindhis of Karachi, and this recipe came into being. It's a very easy recipe. If you do not want to use prawns, you can use fish also, and you will do exactly what I'm doing with the prawns, and it's very easy. Step by step, if you follow it, you'll get to know what I'm doing. First of all, I'll give you a quick rundown on what are the ingredients we are using for today. We're using 2 cups of rice. As you know, in Pakistan, we produce a lot of basmati rice, and Pakistan is one of the main importers in the world for the total accumulated amount of basmati rice consumed in the world, which is a very good thing. Why? Because if Pakistan has good quality basmati rice, then only this can be used across the world in the leading restaurants which have Michelin stars. Then we're going to use around some ginger, which we'll grate in front of you, then some green chilies finely chopped, cumin powder, coriander powder, then you need mustard seeds, turmeric, around 6 to 8 tablespoons of oil. I'm using sunflower oil. If you want to use olive oil, you can use that also, and if you like butter, you can substitute it with butter also. Around 4 to 5 cloves of garlic. Because I'll shred them, I've kept 1 extra piece. There's a reason behind it, because when you're shredding, you leave some part behind. Why? Because you want to be very safe with your hands and you don't want to shred your skin off. So always keep 1 extra. Then you need some coriander leaves, some mint leaves, then you need around 2 onions finely chopped, and in the end you need around 2 to 3 tomatoes. Always keep 1 vegetable extra. You never know what comes out of the tomato if you're cutting it, because at times the center could be bad. You don't know till the time you cut through it. Okay, so now what we'll do is, the other thing you need is around 4 to 5 cups of water. This water will be used to boil the rice, and now you need to understand this rice will be boiled with the food, with the ingredients together, like a pilaf. Also in Pakistan we call it pulao. Now let's start with the recipe. First of all, what you need to do is how to use rice. Always remember, you need to wash the rice properly, and then you have to use the rice after soaking it for at least 30 minutes. But today, as we're doing a live show for you, we will try taking out 30 minutes, but if we can't, we'll just let you know how to do it. What happens is, when you start soaking the rice, it gets cooked quickly, evenly. Why? Because all the small pieces of rice absorb the water equally. So I need a bowl first of all, which I have over here. I'll just pass some water through it first. I mean, I always have a rule, whenever I'm taking something out of the cabinet, no matter how clean the cabinet is, just pass it through water once. Okay, so 2 cups of rice, 1 and 2. Add some water to it first. Rinse it a bit. Wash it slowly and gradually. You don't have to go into it with all your hands and rub it. Just move it very slowly, and you can see, I'll just try showing it to you if it comes in the camera. There's some cloudy water. This cloudy water go away, and then you'll add it again. Then add some more water. Why? Because you need to rinse it at least 3 to 4 times. Remember this. A lot of people ask me that how should we cook rice, or whenever we cook rice it's not cooked properly. You need to remember one thing: soak your rice, wash your rice, and you'll have the best recipe ever. Okay, so now I'll wash it at least 3 and 1 more time. I'm basically passing it through water. This is done. Now the rice is on the side for soaking, and you might be thinking he's just using 2 cups of rice. You do know that once you cook 2 cups of rice, it will become almost 4.5 cups to 5 cups, and this recipe will easily feed 4 people. Now the interesting part about Pakistani cuisine is we always cook for more than 1 person. That's why, because the reason behind it is that Pakistani cooking has come from the kitchens of our mothers, from our grandmothers, and you do know when our grandmothers cook or our mothers cook, they cook with love. They do not cook per person. If you have 5 people in the house, or if you have 6 people in the house, they'll always cook for 2 more people, because Pakistanis are very welcoming to guests. For example, if I have a sister or a brother, if they say our friends are coming over, so the mother will always make sure there's enough food for everyone. And there's a saying in Pakistan: always cook more but never cook less. Why? Because it's better to have more than less in the house, because you never know when a guest comes, and we're very welcoming towards guests. Okay, now everything said, what we need is, first of all, we need some oil in the wok. Put the wok on heat. Once the wok is hot, I'll add the oil, and then I'll start putting some onions into it. I need 2 onions right now, so I have like 3 onions, but as I said, 3 onions are just for safekeeping. So I've just peeled the onions prior to the show, and the only thing I'm doing is now I'm cutting them. You need to remember, keep the root on, the onion's not going to fall apart. Small things you have to remember, and they'll take you a long way when it comes to cooking. Remember that. Okay, just make 1 cut and then another one. And the pan is hot. First of all, add oil into it. This is done. Once you're not using something, just put it on the side. Reduce the heat to low. You do not want the oil to start burning. You just want to heat it up. Okay, so now we come back to the onions. Slowly and gradually chop them. Keep cleaning your blade like this. Why? Because if the onion sticks, the chopping will be affected. Some things you don't do very fast, like when I'm actually cutting through the onion, at that time I'll keep my knife slow. Why? Because you want precision rather than speed at times. Precision is very important in cooking. Speed comes in ingredients which are very straightforward. So like, make these cuts, just go through it, pass your knife. Remember, some people ask me, Basim, I can't do this. This isn't happening. I always tell them, invest in a good chef knife. Even if you're not a professional chef, but if you love cooking, the first thing, the prerequisite of cooking is owning a good chef's knife and having it sharp all the time. What I usually do is, before cooking, I always sharpen my knife at least once. And how do I sharpen my knife? I can show it to you, but let me just do this once. I'll show it to you in between the show. It's basically done with a sharpening steel. This is called the sharpening steel. You always use this. 3 slides at one side, 3 on the other side, 6 slides in total, and your knife is sharp. Okay, so slowly and gradually pass the knife through it. It's done. Now gather it on one side. Take the onion, roots, and throw it away in the dustbin. I'll just throw it over here. Now, the onion goes in first. And this is done. Okay, just move it a bit. Keep the heat on low. Give it a lid and let it be for 30 seconds. Now you need some salt, but before that, let me just wash my hands. So I've kept the salt on the side. Remember, this recipe also has salt, so salt to taste, always remember it. Right now, you'll add a little bit of salt. I'll just add like around 1/4 teaspoon. Why? Right now I'm adding some salt because it will help the onions to cook better. Why? I'll tell you. What happens is when you add salt to any ingredient while you're cooking it, the moisture is sucked out and the texture of the ingredient gets far much better. Okay, so reduce the heat to low. While this is happening, what you need now is you need to add some mustard seeds, but not right now because there's a reason behind it. First, you need to shred two of the main ingredients. I will use the smoother side of the shredder because I want smaller pieces. So slowly and gradually keep a proper grip. Do not be very hasty when it comes to this because trust me, your hand matters the most, nothing else in this world. Turn it around a bit. Okay, we have the ginger. Now you need around 4 cloves of garlic. So this is the water which has actually come out of the ginger. Slowly and gradually, 4 pieces. I'll tell you why I'm using 5 because I'm going to leave the end part. Why? Because I want to keep my hand intact. So slowly and gradually you go through this recipe, and it's one delicious recipe. This recipe is actually something I've had all my life. I'm from the city of Karachi, and I'm a boy from Karachi, and as they say, you can take out the boy out of the city, but you can't take the city out of the boy. So I have grown up eating this recipe. My grandmother is a wonderful cook, she's a beautiful cook, and most of the things I've learned how to cook in my life comes from her. And she's a really cute person, you can say. Why? Because when she cooks, she's like, no one needs to come into the kitchen, and we tell her, grandmother, you're pretty old now and you would need some help. But she tells me that I've cooked for you guys all my life. So in my family, we have around 7 to 8 people living in a house, and she cooks for everyone till date, and whatever she makes, it's just out of the heavens. Okay, this is done. Now increase the heat a bit. When the oil comes to heat, when it's properly hot, what you need to do is, firstly, you need to add the mustard seeds. Okay, I just need to take some garlic off my hands. This is done. I always keep a fresh cloth on the side. You should. There are 2 reasons behind keeping a fresh cloth with you. The first is you can wipe your hands, it's very clean. The second is if you think that the steel or the handle of the wok you're cooking it with is getting hot, you can always hold it with it. But do not use it for cleaning the counters. Remember that. Always use it just for these 2 things. Why? Because you need to maintain cleanliness, and as we have been taught in our culinary school, cross-contamination is the reason behind things getting really bad. Okay, so add the mustard seeds. I'll save some. Now tilt the pan and mix it. Now when would you know that the mustard seeds are ready? When they'll start popping. You need to hear them very closely. Do not mix the crackling sound of the onions with the mustard seeds. Usually when the mustard seeds get hot, they start popping out, bouncing out. So what I'll do is I'll add the lid, and I know it just takes around a minute. So reduce the heat, let the mustard seeds cook properly. While that is cooking, what we'll do is we'll just take off the juices of the ginger I was just shredding. That's the only problem with shredding. It leaves out juices, and that's the bits and pieces of garlic, so that's completely all right. I really don't mind. Throw it away in the dustbin and just continue cooking. So I will just take this off, keep it on the side, and now what you need is tomatoes. Okay, so I'll take 2 tomatoes. The riper they are, the redder they are, the better they are. It's going to taste better. Take the eye of the tomato out. Basically, the eye of the tomato is only this part, but because I want to cook in Pakistani style, this is what they do over here. Okay, so just cut it, keep it over here. Okay, now I'm going to take this off the stove, put the stove on pilot, back. Why? Because you do not have to overcook the recipe. Please remember that. Make cuts and as close as you can go with the tomato, go, because you need the tomatoes really fine, because then they will start breaking down even better. The thinner the tomatoes, the quicker they will break down and the more delicious they are. Remember that. And remember, try using red ripe tomatoes, because if the tomato is towards the greener side, the flavor of the recipe will for sure change. And yesterday I was just traveling and basically going home from a friend's place, and I saw a fruit vendor over there on the road, and I just bought some fruit, and it just occurred to me that Pakistan has one of the best fruits available around the world. They are delicious. The flavor, the density, the juice in the flavor, it's beautiful. So I just bought some plums yesterday, and the plums were like completely dripping everywhere once I was taking a bite. Why? Because the produce in Pakistan is good. The reason behind it is that we are an agricultural based country, and as you know, the king of fruits, they say, is mango, and Pakistani mangoes are famous all around the world. Okay, quick and easy, step by step. Add this back. Increase the heat to high. Add around a quarter teaspoon of salt over the tomatoes like this. Just mix it up properly. This is done. Now what you need to do is add the lid on. But before that, you need to add 2 spices. Firstly, you'll add some crushed cumin, or cumin powder for that matter. Then you'll add some coriander powder, and you leave it on the side, the remaining things. Mix it up properly. This is done. Put a lid back on and reduce the heat to medium. Okay, now while this is cooking, what you need to do is, you can take a wok, you can take a pan, whatever. This will increase the speed of your cooking basically. You need to add some water, bring it to boil, and then I'll tell you what to do later. Till the time I leave this to boil, you go for a short break. Keep watching Indus Cuisine, and I'm your chef, Basim Akhund. Welcome back. You're watching Indus Cuisine, and I'm your chef, Basim Akhund. In the break, we just left the tomatoes to soften up, and as you can see, they're pretty soft. I'm just going to now press them. You really need to do this. You can't avoid it. If you do not press the tomatoes properly, you won't get a good texture in the rice, and that will ruin the recipe. So you just have to like squash them like this. What I'm doing is I'm just squashing them with the spatula I'm using. Mix it up. Okay, now move it and squash them. Okay, this is done. Now you can see the texture has changed. It's like somewhat like a paste. This means we're ready to go. What I did in the break was I just took out the water from the rice, and as you can see over here, the water has come to boil. So what I'll do is I'll just put that back on pilot, because I don't want it to evaporate completely. And what I'll do now is I'll start cooking. So first of all, what you need is you need green chilies, and you need to add green chilies over here. There's a reason behind it. Why? Because I want, as you can see, there's some oil over here. Pakistani cooking has oil. So you have to just add the green chilies in the oil, mix it up for like 1 minute, and then go ahead. Okay, so keep it as close as you can, because you will be having these green chilies. And remember, the spice or the hotness level is in the seed of the green chili. So if you do not want the spice level to increase, you can take the seeds out by splitting the green chili into half and then taking it out. Okay, so just keep your eye on the green chili and finely chop it. And always remember, cooking is not just by looking, it's also by listening to what you're doing. So this is almost done. take the top part of the green chili. You don't need it, throw it aside. Okay, now add the green chili to the wok. This is done. Take the spatula, increase the heat and start mixing it. Fold it. And it is done. Okay, just once flip it up. Done. Now what you need is, you need to use these two herbs in the end, not right now, but first goes in the water. Okay, be very careful, and with being careful, take the cloth, lift it up and transfer the boiling hot water into the wok. Increase the heat to full. The water has come to boil immediately. Why? Because it was already piping hot. We're saving time. We're cooking smart. Okay, we just added a 1/4 teaspoon of salt in the beginning and then a 1/4 teaspoon when we added the tomatoes. So now what you need to do is, you need to add around 1 teaspoon of salt. You need to season it very nicely to get the flavor out of it. Okay, the water is piping hot. Now goes in the last important thing, the turmeric. So we add the turmeric. Keep it on the side. Always remember, cleanliness is very, very, very important. Mix it up properly. And here we have the broth ready. Now what you will do is, you'll make it like a pilau. You have to add the rice into this, and what you need to do is, you need the water to evaporate on a slow speed so that the rice absorbs it and cooks in all the flavor. Okay, so I would like to see what's the temperature and what's the amount of water I have. So always take it on the side, and once the bubbles go down, just take a look. And I think I need some more water in it. So what I'll do is, I'll add some more. Always, whenever you're dealing with water, try holding the pan with a cloth so that it doesn't slip. Okay, this is done. Keep this on the side, you don't need more water. I'll keep it in the oven. Never keep hot water on the table because it's dangerous. You can spill it all over. Now, reduce the heat for a second just to save yourself, and keep this cloth on the side because I think I'm falling in love with this. It's in my hand all the time like a handkerchief. And add it over here. Okay, add the rice. Try taking out each and every small piece because wasting is not a nice thing. That's what I believe in, because there's so many people in the world who lack proper nutrition, proper food. So just feel what they go through and just respect all the ingredients you're using and minimize the waste whenever you're cooking. So increase the heat. Now I need to do one thing. I'll tell you why. Once this comes to heat, I will change the pan. So what I'll do is, I'll just take the water out, rinse it once. Rinsed it. I am making a recipe that requires a pan, not a wok, when it comes towards the last stage. Okay, so what I will do is, I will take the cloth again, hold it, reduce the heat here, and transfer all the ingredients over there. Now, slowly and gradually do. Why? Because I want the rice to cook evenly. So what I'll do is, I'll flatten it out, remember that. This is done. The wok is not needed at all now. You need a spatula for this. I'll bring it back to heat, increase the heat to full. Spread the rice out, see? Just spread it out. Clean the side with the spatula. Increase the heat to full. Keep a lid on it and bring it to boil. When it comes back to boil, I'll tell you what to do. Okay, till that time, let's get ready with all the other ingredients you need. First of all, what I'll do is, because the smaller ingredient right now is mint leaves, I just plucked them and I kept them over here. Remember, always close up the mint leaves. Okay, you can see the water has come to boil. Reduce the heat to medium. Why? Because you don't want the water to evaporate quickly. Okay, let this cook. We shall start chopping the mint leaves very finely now. Pull it together. What I want is, I want these leaves to be very, very fine. So as I've told you before also a couple of times, keep chopping and really fine. Fold it again. This is done. Now, take this and do not add it right now. Put it on the side. We do not need so much of coriander, so we will just take a bit. Okay, now remember one thing. These are the roots. It's washed very properly, but I just wanted to show it to you. You will cut this part out, the roots out, throw it in the dustbin first, and then turn it around, fold it like a cigar. That's how they actually teach us in culinary school. Spin it around again, hold it, and then pass your knife through it, really close. Okay. Turn it around, keep chopping it really fine. Lever action. This is done. Now what you need is, you need to see the rice. You can see the water is drying out. Just shake it a bit. And now keep the lid back on, and now we need the prawns. I washed the prawns properly and I kept them inside. Just going to rinse my hands once. Dry it out, and now what you need to do is the last important thing. You might be thinking, how will I cook the prawns? Reduce the heat first and start placing the prawns on top. Okay, but first what we'll do is we will add a bit of the greens in the recipe right now. Rinse your hands again. Try just mixing it a bit like this on top. Make a layer. You can see this is done. Now keep this aside, and now we get the prawns. Okay, you have to decorate them like this. Now, so I'll quickly and slowly do it. I have the tail on of the prawn. They're cleaned, deveined properly. This is basically art when you're cooking. You have to put your heart into it and you'll do great, trust me. It takes time, but it will happen. Keep it close. I'm using around 1.5 kg of peeled prawns right now. If you want to increase the amount of prawns, you can do that. That's not a problem. Till the time they fit in and they can fit on top. Remember that thing. Slowly and gradually, it takes time, but the end result is delicious. There's just something on my hand which was, I think, the part of the prawn which is completely fine, because obviously these prawns are peeled for you, so the shell can start falling apart, and that kind of tends to stick to your hand, and that's when you just have to take it off to have a proper clean hand while cooking. Okay, quickly. You need to be very quick because you do not want the water to start evaporating completely. Okay, this is done. And now what we do is we add some remaining coriander on top, spread it out. Not too much, a bit only. Then again, clean your hands. And the last thing what you need to do is just look closely. Take some salt and start coating the prawns on top. I'm seasoning them. And this is done. Keep a lid on, increase the heat to full for like 30 seconds. And just till the time it's coming back to heat, what I'll do is I will just take these things on the side. It's back on heat, reduce it to low and let it cook for around 8 to 10 minutes on the pilot. Till the time this is cooking, what I'll do is I'll just clean everything apart, okay? So I left the food on like really low heat. Why? Because I just wanted the water to start evaporating on a very slow heat. The rice would cook and the steam would cook the prawns also. You do not need to cook the prawns for half an hour. In Pakistan, some people do it. Please don't do it. It just takes around 8 to 10 minutes and your recipe is ready to eat. Okay, now as you can see, the prawns are ready. The water has evaporated completely. There's a little bit of water on the base, but we want that. Why? That water will give you that nice flavor. Switch it off. Just see the prawns are done. And I'm going to lift it up and keep it over here. This recipe is ready. It just took around 8 to 10 minutes in the end so that the prawns could steam and the rice could cook properly. This recipe is all about eating with family, with your loved ones, and this is how it's served. I hope you liked today's recipe. I'll see you in another episode with another new recipe from the heart of Pakistan. Take care. Bye-bye.